You're listening to Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Good morning. Hello. Welcome to the Reefer Reporters. It's November 3rd, 2022. And we are here live from the Legacy420.com news desk. And we bring you our global Reefer Report here on the Pace Radio Network. We are going to try to stay within our hour today, so we have cut it down to 8 stories. So we have 4 before the break and 4 after the break. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Cindy. How are you?
I'm pretty fantastic, and how are you?
I'm doing great. It's nice and warm. It's November. It's going to hit at 18 or something like that today. I love it.
Yeah. Yesterday, November 2nd, I was out in a tank top.
I was on my motorcycle driving around, and I love that. I've never done that in November.
Wow. Yeah, this is incredible for the Maritimes. Incredible.
It's great.
Absolutely. Well, we might as well kick it off. We have an hour to kill. We might as well kick it off and head into our first story. You are also going to notice a change that Glenn and I are staying over here on the side from now on. Wish me luck, because I'm going to try to read the stories without looking like a complete and utter fool. Fingers crossed. So we're heading over to Yahoo Finance first. The U.S. CBD company Charlotte's Web signs deal with Canadian cannabis company Tilray.
At Leamington, Ontario, Charlotte's Web Holdings Incorporated has signed a deal with Tilray Brands Incorporated for the manufacturing, marketing, and distribution of Charlotte's Web CBD hemp extract products in Canada. Financial terms of the agreement were not immediately available. The deal means Charlotte's Web full-spectrum CBD products will be available in Canada through Tilray's distribution network.
Ooh, well, that's kind of exciting. The companies say Charlotte's Web hemp extracts previously had only been available to Canadians that qualified for special access medical exemption through Health Canada. Under the deal, Tilray will acquire and extract Charlotte's Web proprietary hemp biomass and manufacture it into the final product at its production facilities here in Canada.
What does that mean, hemp biomass? I don't understand what that means.
It's an extract of sorts. would be my guess, because like they do say they're going to extract Charlotte's Web proprietary hemp biomass. So
I'm assuming this is a bunch of cannabis, but not the flower.
Yeah, well, it's hemp that they're like. It's Charlotte's Web.
Oh, hemp. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so they're gonna extract from the hemp.
Okay, makes sense. Under the deal, they will acquire the extract Charlotte's Web proprietary hemp biomass and manufacture it into the final product at its production facilities in Canada. The products are expected to become available early next year, starting with hemp extract oil tinctures, followed by gummies and topicals. The report by the Canadian press was first published in November. That was short story.
Yeah, it's a very short story. I don't know if you've ever been able to try Charlotte's Web. I was able to a few years ago. I was able to try some Charlotte's Web. I believe it was Shatter. And it was absolutely phenomenal.
I've read many stories, people using it, but I've never experienced it myself.
Yeah, well, if you ever get a chance, I would definitely recommend it. I enjoyed the Shatter very much. I found it very pain relieving and relaxing.
Sounds like I might get the chance through Tilray.
Yeah, you never know, right? Heading to our next story is it's coming to us from MJ Biz Daily. Small state, big stakes for North Dakota cannabis legalization measure.
Okay, just under 775,000 people, North Dakota's entire population, could fit in San Francisco city limits with room to spare. Despite the physically vast, traditionally conservative Prairie State's relatively small constituency, a voter initiative that would legalize adult use cannabis in North Dakota has big stakes, proving legalization is a true bipartisan issue and influencing attitudes in the U.S. Senate. about time.
It could also lead to the opening of a new market generating sales as much as $100 million in its first year and $285 million by the fourth year, according to MJ Biz Daily. And that's for a small population state. An expanded national market active in traditionally conservative states is key to the future of vital federal reform, legalization, advocates say. However, thanks in part to modest campaign investment from the cannabis industry, the pro-legalization campaign in North Dakota has been outspent in the final crucial month as opponents flood radio and Facebook with negative advertising.
Of course. Those opponents include hugely influential statewide businesses and law enforcement groups, and limited polling suggests a loss as supporters admit a close race is likely. If voters in North Dakota do reject legalization, the other red states like Arkansas, Missouri will follow or should follow suit. It would be relatively rare setback for legalization, and one that could lead prohibition supporters to claim, with some justification, that the cannabis movement's inexorable winning momentum over the past decade has finally slowed down. Conservative legislation, if approved by voters, mandatory Measure 2, one of only 2 voter initiatives on the ballot in North Dakota, would allow adults 21 and older to possess up to an ounce of cannabis and grow no more than 3 cannabis plants in their homes.
Yeah, it would also compel the state health department to set up industry regulations by October 1st, 2023, while capping the number of cultivation facilities at 7 and the number of retail dispensaries at no more than 18. Other details, including taxation, would be left to the state legislature. Though North Dakota voters legalized medical cannabis in 2016, they soundly rejected an adult use legalization measure in 2018 by a vote of 59.5 to 40.6.
But supporters such as State Rep Matthew Ruby, a Republican from Minot, says there are conservative arguments in favor of cannabis legalization. A balance of personal freedom mollified with restrictions cast as responsible versus the comparatively freewheeling situation in Colorado. Some of the political heavy hitters that opposed the 2018 measure, including state law enforcement and business groups, are still opposed, but more passive, he said. They're sitting on the sidelines, kind of hanging out this time around rather than spending heavily on the opposition campaign. In addition, Measure 2 scored a major endorsement from the Grand Forks Herald editorial board. That's something we've never had before, Ruby told MJ Biz Daily, while admitting the race will likely be close.
It's a conservative state. It's still going to be tough, but I feel good about it. Advocates over business. In a break from the trend seen in other red states, most of the $550,000 in campaign spending in support of the measure is coming from the national advocacy organizations familiar from legalization wins in other states. The top donor is the New Approach Advocacy Fund, the prominent Washington, D.C. based drug reform organization connected to the fortune of late Peter Lewis, a former chair of Progressive Auto Insurance. New Approach donated $306,839.22. And DC-based marijuana policy, MPP, which is Lending Campaign Enterprises, donated $70,000.
I like how they got the 22 cents in there.
Yeah, 22 cents.
Every last penny.
That's right. On the business side, a subsidiary of Curaleaf Holdings, a major multi-state operator based in Massachusetts, donated $87,500. On the business side, Highland Park, Illinois-based GR Holdings OHND contributed $87,500, same as the Curaleaf. And then Pure Dakota and Stryleaf, 2 existing medical cannabis businesses, contributed $70,000 and $17,500 respectively, records show. There are 8 existing MMJ dispensaries in the state currently, according to the North Dakota Department of Human Services. And they're all owned by Curaleaf.
Though influential pro-business and law enforcement groups have all registered their opposition to the measure, the official opposition campaign is a modest outfit called Healthy and Productive North Dakota, chaired by Terpenes, North Dakota resident named Christy Spooner. Spooner did not respond to calls and emails seeking comment, but her material support, $2,500 to date, according to campaign finance records, is coming from a familiar source, a political action committee based in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, called Protect Our Kids. The organization's registered agent is Luke Niforatos, who is the executive vice president at Smart Approaches to Marijuana, arguably the nation's most prominent prohibition advocates. In comments to other media, Spooner and Niforatos said legalization would lead to increased use by youth and more traffic fatalities and exacerbate an existing mental health crisis. Why don't they just use the examples that are already there? It's very easy to see that this is a bunch of BS that they're spouting here.
Yeah. Cannabis can cause psychosis and a host of other mental health issues, Spooner told North Dakota broadcaster Valley News Live. No. We already have a mental health crisis in North Dakota. We don't need to add to it, which is why you should legalize cannabis.
Yep.
At the same time, a dark money organization is paying for a flurry of media advertisements seen on Facebook and heard on the radio over the past month. I find it hard not to giggle when I'm reading some of this stuff.
I always see dark money. It's all these dark money. It's always dark money against them, you know?
Yeah, it's, I mean, like, I don't understand their way of thinking. That group, the Bismarck-based Brighter Future Alliance, has spent, let me see, they've spent $133,367.46 to oppose, got to get that 46 cents, to oppose Measure 2, mostly by media buyers, according to campaign finance records. Reached on his cell phone Tuesday, Pat Finken, Brighter Futures chairman, requested MJ Biz Daily sends questions via email, which I'm sure they did.
And Flinken did not immediately respond. But Ruby, the pro-cannabis state lawmaker, summed up Flinken's arguments as the same unoriginal, tried and true talking used by Spooner and Niforatos and heard elsewhere whenever legalization is at issue. Exactly the same. We hear it every single time. However, there's one twist particularly to North Dakota, which is beset by a labor shortage. More potential employees disqualified by a drug screening. We're just dusting off everything they've had in the past, Ruby said. There's a lot of new thinking coming from them. There's not a lot of new thinking coming from them. Yeah, this is the drug screening. Well, if it's legal, then they don't need to screen for it. I wonder if they screen for alcohol, you know? It's
Yeah. But the old thinking could easily thwart necessary future reforms, such as banking and taxation, that's currently called in Congress for lack of support in the U.S., said Jarrett Moffitt, MPP's state campaigns manager. The national implications are huge, Moffitt said. The reason why a state like North Dakota matters is because it's represented by 2 Republican senators in Congress, Kevin Kramer and John Hoeven. They can't say, oh, this is a Democrat thing if North Dakota passes legalization. There aren't enough Democrats in North Dakota to pass it. There will have to be a lot of Republican voters for this to pass.
It is moving the right way, but slowly, obviously.
So slowly, hey? It's but I mean, at least it is moving forward, which is a great thing to happen. And I hope that the slower states catch up with everybody else quickly.
If they would just remove it from Schedule 1, it would make it a lot easier for any state to legalize it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, nationally, they have to get on board for sure. We are heading over to High Times to New York. New York loosens strict testing requirements for cannabis cultivators. Ooh, pretty picture.
Okay. Sorry, I'm on the wrong story here. There we go.
No worries.
Regulators in New York this week lifted a stringent requirement that cannabis growers in the state had decried as an existential threat to their operations. New York Cannabis Insider reports that the state's Office of Cannabis Management on Tuesday sent an email to cultivators to note that it had updated its laboratory testing limits document to remove the pass-fail limits associated with the total viable aerobic bacteria count and the total yeast and mold count for unextracted cannabis products, e.g. flowers or pre-rolls. New York cannabis growers lamented that the testing limits for bacteria, yeast, and mold were far too onerous and jeopardized their ability to get the product in front of customers.
The state gave conditional licenses to cultivators earlier this year to begin growing the first adult use cannabis crop outdoors. But growing outdoors made those testing limits difficult to attain. This is a step in the right direction for the success of this new market, says Aaron Lentes, a conditional cultivator and co-founder and owner of Unified Cannabis, as quoted by New York Cannabis Insider. Because growers were not given an option to cultivate indoors, it's nice to see OCM adjusting their testing guidelines to be more in line with the realities of outdoor cultivation. In its email sent on Tuesday, the Office of Cannabis Management said that although testing will still be conducted, there will not be a defined limit for unextracted cannabis products in the adult use program.
It is a responsibility of the licensee to consider these results and any impact to the stability and expiration dating of the product, as well as any risk to the health of consumers, the OCM said in the email, as quoted by the New York Cannabis Insider. Recipients of the first 2-year conditional cultivator licenses were given the green light to grow up to an acre's worth of cannabis outdoors, although they were also permitted to keep some plants in greenhouses. There's a market that we're building for small players, for big players, for medium-sized players, for family businesses, for big corporations as well. Chris Alexander, who's the executive director of the Office of Cannabis Management, said, in the first round of cultivation this summer, we do think it will be sufficient to provide that initial supply to our dispensary locations that we get up and running. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who is facing re-election next week, said last month that the first state-regulated cannabis dispensaries are still on track to open by the end of the year.
We expect the first 20 dispensaries to be open by the end of this year, she said at the time, and then every month or so, another 20. Wow. So we're not going to just jam it out there. It's going to work and be successful. In the same interview, Hochul took credit for getting the legal cannabis program up and running after she took over from former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo last August. Talk about the rollout being jammed up. She said, when I became governor, nothing had happened. Nothing. It was shut down because there was a battle between the administration and the legislator over who would be the executive director and the chairs of the Cannabis Review Board, she said. So I was given a lot of credit because within 1 week, I named people. I got things going. So when I speak to people about being part of this industry, the first thing they say is thank you, because otherwise we could still be waiting and waiting and waiting, even for the most basic steps to be taken. So we've been moving along quickly. Good for her.
Yep.
And that's still a beautiful, look at that beautiful flower. It's such a beautiful cannabis flower. Absolutely stunning.
I usually can't see that. I like this new format. I could actually see scrolling through there. I don't usually see that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We are staying over at High Times for the next story, and we are going to see Schumer says Senate is very close to passing the Safe Banking Act. Like I said before the show, I'll believe it when it happens.
Yeah. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Sunday that he and his colleagues are very close to passing legislation that would authorize financial institutions to provide services to cannabis businesses. And I still don't understand how they can do this if it's Schedule 1. It's against the law federally to provide banking services to anyone selling anything Schedule 1. So I don't know how this can work without rescheduling it.
Well, hopefully, that will all come together.
Yeah, they can pass this bill and then nobody can still do it. It's so weird. Speaking during a debate in his New York Senate race, Schumer signaled that the Safe Banking Act may finally be close to earning full passage. I am working in a bipartisan way with Democrats and Republicans to the Safe Banking Act, which allows financial institutions to involve themselves in cannabis companies and lend money to them. But it also does some things for justice, such as expunging a record, Schumer said during the debate, as quoted by Seeking Alpha. I like the expunging record deal.
The Safe Banking Act was passed by the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives in February, marking the 6th time that the body approved the legislation. The legislation was first introduced all the way back in 2013. If it were to become law, it would provide vital resources to cannabis retailers in states and provinces where adult use cannabis has been made legal. Because, I mean, let's face facts, they affect us. Their banking affects our banking. If this safe banking comes into effect, if it really happens, it's going to seriously affect cannabis businesses here in Canada.
Yeah, a lot of our banks do businesses in the state too. Do business in the state. So in the States, if they do business with a cannabis company up here, they can fine them or take them to court or sue them or whatever in the States. A little crazy, but
it's scary. Those shops have become susceptible to robberies due to the large amounts of cash on hand. In March, the Seattle Times reported that there had already been 70 armed robberies in Washington state in the first 3 months of the year. That was more than double the total in both 2021 and 2022.
It says 70 armed robberies, but it doesn't say of cannabis stores or companies. It just says armed robberies.
No, I think they're insinuating that it is. That's how I read it, but I could be completely wrong.
You rob the places where the cash is, Washington State Treasurer Mike Pellicchiotti said on a trip earlier this year to Washington, where he lobbied lawmakers to pass the Safe Banking Act. These robberies are tragic, but these robberies are also preventable. You can't have a $1.4 billion a year transaction taking place in the state of Washington in cash and not have the risk of these types of robberies. It's time, Pellicchiotti added. He also said other state treasurers have been among the bill's biggest advocates. Colorado cannabis stores, along with other states with legal cannabis businesses, are headed into their busiest week of the year. Colorado State Treasurer Dave Young tweeted earlier this year ahead of the 420 festivities. Yet these businesses must dangerously operate in a cash-based world. Let's pass the Safe Banking Act and this 420.
Yeah, we should. Before this 420, I really hope they do. Democratic leaders like Schumer have been determined to pass some form of cannabis reform since the party secured control of Congress and the White House in 2020. Schumer spoke confidently last year about passing a federal legalization bill, even as President Joe Biden expressed reluctance about fully lifting prohibition. We will move forward, Schumer said at the time. Biden said he's studying the issue, so I obviously want to give him a little time to study it. I want to make my arguments to him, and many other advocates will. But at some point, we're going to move forward, period. In April, the House passed the Cannabis Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement, the MORE, so I should have said Marijuana, Act, which would remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act. There you go. The federal statute that enshrines prohibition. So this past April, the House passed the MORE Act.
And if they would have put this in a year and a half ago, it would have passed too. It has a less chance of passing now because the Republicans might take back Congress. And if they do, this legislation will never pass.
Yeah. No, I hope that they pass it in the next couple of years so it can be done under Biden. And
yeah.
Democrats
in the Senate said they would produce their own legalization bill, but the legislation's release never came. Now, with the midterm elections slated for next week, and with Democrats in jeopardy of losing control of both the House and the Senate, the hopes of federal legalization are dimming. This isn't to say that cannabis reform advocates have come up completely empty with Democrats in charge. Last month, Biden announced he is issuing pardons to everyone with federal convictions for cannabis possession. Biden also signaled a desire to remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act. Yes.
That would be wonderful. Federal law currently classifies cannabis as in Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act. This classification meant for most dangerous substances. Oh, why can't I speak all of a sudden? This is the same schedule as for heroin or LSD, which shouldn't be on it either, and even higher than the classification for fentanyl and methamphetamine. The drugs are the drugs that are driving the overdose epidemic, Biden said in his announcement. Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to cannabis, he added. It's time that we right these wrongs. As Seeking Alpha noted, the version of the Safe Banking Act under consideration includes both banking reform and cannabis conviction expungements. Oh gosh, here we are. I mean, I'm so hopeful for that.
That's what I mean. If they would have introduced this legislation a year and a half ago, it would have passed because they control it. Now, if they lose control, the legislation is useless. I just wonder if they wait on purpose.
I think in the beginning they were, and I mean, maybe now we are seeing them pick up their feet a little bit and try to move forward. But I mean, like if they had started this when Biden first took power, it'd be done.
It would have been done by now.
And then his government would have this whole, like, the next 2 years to be able to refine
Implement
what they're doing.
I am so skeptical because it always happens. Everything's in cycles, especially Canada and the States, the way our elections work. Usually one party takes control, then another party takes, it keeps in cycles like that.
Yeah. They
know that. And I wonder if they wait for this legislation to the last minute like they did this time, just so they will never pass it.
A token critical thinking has been commenting, especially on our last story. Wow, lots of comments. It's a wedge issue. Exactly. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there on that one, for sure. But with that, it's been a wonderful conversation. But with that, it is medication time, which means we're going to hear from our sponsors. And Glenn and I will be right back after the break. So you're watching us, the Reefer Reporters, and we are live here at the Pace Radio Network YouTube channel and our Facebook pages.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And we are back from our medication session. My cough was just on time. And we are perfect timing. We are the Reefer Reporters. If you miss our live shows, don't forget they are available afterwards as a podcast on our website, reeferreporters.com, plus paceradio.net. And you can find us all over Facebook and hashtag replay the lives there as well. Oh boy, that was a good medication session, I gotta say. But we're going to head over to our next story, our first one after the break. We are heading to my favorite publication, The Fresh Toast. Is smoking weed bad for your lungs?
Cannabis by itself is not bad for your lungs, but smoking it is. Smoking weed leads to the deposit of 4 times the amount of tar than smoking tobacco and may increase the risk of lung cancer. Smoking anything is bad for your lungs. That's because when you smoke, you're inhaling burned plant matter and chemicals. These chemicals include toxins and carcinogens, which can damage your lung tissue. According to the American Lung Association, smoking cannabis can result in acute bronchitis, air pockets in between both lungs, air pocket in between the lungs and the chest wall, chronic bronchitis, chronic cough, increased risk of respiratory conditions, injury to the cell linings of the large airways, killing lung cells that defend against dust and germs, resulting in the development of mucus, large air bubbles in the lungs of young to middle-aged adults who are heavy weed smokers, low respiratory tract infections, thumb production, risk of infection if the smoker has immunodepressive disease, such as HIV infection, risk of infection if the smoker has immunooppressive drugs, weakened immune system, and wheeze. Big list.
Is there tar in cannabis? Tar is a sticky substance that's left behind when plants are burned. It's made up of chemicals and toxins that can damage your lung tissue. When you smoke weed, cannabis, you're inhaling tar. Cannabis smokers tend to have more tar buildup in their lungs than tobacco smokers. Sorry, I get sarcasm in the tone of my voice. I cannot help it. This is because they usually hold the smoke in their lungs longer than tobacco smokers. This increases the amount of time the harmful chemicals are in contact with the lung tissue, resulting in more tar exposure. The answer to the question you've been wondering, is cannabis bad for your lungs, is that cannabis itself is not bad for your lungs, but smoking it is.
Can smoking cannabis damage your lungs? Yes, smoking cannabis damages human lungs. Researchers at the University of Otago have found that prolonged cannabis use can lead to overinflated lungs and increase the resistance to airflow to a greater extent than tobacco. The finding was partially eye-opening, as it suggested that impaired oxygen extraction, which is the result of overinflated lungs and lungs resistant to airflow, may be a precursor symptoms to the condition respiratory doctors refer to as bong lung.
So I've been sitting here with a sour look on my face, kind of leaning. I forgot, like, oh yeah, everybody can see me. I can't show my sarcasm that much. Bong lung is a very severe form of emphysema, a disorder in which the lungs' air sacs are harmed and swelled, producing breathlessness. Very little is known about bong lung, except that it is a condition that appears in chronic cannabis smokers' lungs. The lung of a cannabis smoker, especially a chronic one, became impaired over time. Cannabis smoke harms lung tissue, which leads to scarring, injury to the small blood vessels, and respiratory issues. Can you get lung cancer from smoking cannabis?
Oh. A research report published by the National Institute on Drug Abuse found that cannabis smoke can result in heavy coughing due to irritation in the throat and lungs. Coughing after smoking cannabis is due to the toxic chemicals and tar in the smoke, many of which are similar to the harmful chemicals found in tobacco smoke. While long-term studies on smoking cannabis and the prevalence of lung cancer do not exist yet, researchers believe that there could be a correlation between lung cancer and smoking cannabis.
Okay, I have to. I'm sorry. I have to. Okay, got to watch the time because I can't get off on too much of a rant here. So while they're telling us that that they think it does, they are also saying that they haven't done enough. You know, there's not enough long term. They really have no flipping clue. Telling us that the same harmful chemicals are that are found in tobacco smoke, you know, the ones that they add, like the formaldehyde and the and all the carcinogens and the rat poison.
These good ones.
Because that's the harmful stuff found in cigarette smoke. if you go and you plant tobacco, like, I mean, yeah, there's going to be some tar there, but if you plant tobacco and you grow tobacco organically, it no longer has those chemicals. You know what I mean? So maybe they're comparing what the governments grow, that they use chemicals and they use pesticides. But like, I mean, if you grow your cannabis organically, there are none of these chemicals. There's a little bit of resin, but there are none of these chemicals. So it just, I'm flabbergasted that they're like, oh, there's all these chemicals, 4 times the amount in tobacco. Bull, bleep, 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 because it's bull bleep.
That's a very polite way to say it.
Thank you. Can smoking cannabis cause lung cancer? Cannabis contains the following carcinogenic compounds. Bull bleep, bull bleep, bull bleep. No. Oh, I'm upset. Sorry. That's just so wrong. No, we're not putting these chemicals in our cannabis. We're smoking cannabis because we want to get better, and we don't put chemicals in. We're not big pharma. We're not going to pack it full of chemicals. We use this because it's organic, not because it's got chemicals in it. I'm sorry. I've rambled on now. I'll let you read.
Each of the carcinogens listed above is found in cannabis smoke at higher rates than in tobacco smoke. Benzoprine and benzonacirine are particularly alarming. The rate of benzoprine found in cannabis smoke is 50% more than that found in tobacco smoke. The rate of benzacarine is 75% more than found in tobacco smoke. What is cottonmouth and how to fix it? In addition, cannabis smokers tend to smoke cannabis by taking long, slow, steady, deep inhalations that are held longer than tobacco smoke, leading consumers to deposit an average of 4 times the amount of tar they would expose themselves to from tobacco smoke. That leads many researchers to believe that the answer to the question is, can you get lung cancer from smoking weed? Is yes. I haven't seen it yet, but
no. Matter of fact, I know people who have had lung cancer that have cured it with cannabis, including eating and smoking it. Key takeaways: how does smoking weed affect the lungs? The lungs of a cannabis smoker become impaired over time, leading to respiratory issues, even though 4 paragraphs ago they told us that they have no long-term studies. Smoking cannabis leads to the deposit of 4 times the amount of tar than smoking tobacco, even though they're only guessing by what they say they find in the smoke. Smoking cannabis may increase the risk of lung cancer. You have no long-term stuff. Cannabis is not bad for your lungs, but smoking cannabis is bad for your lungs. Oh my goodness gracious.
Find the top-rated products for your goals. Jointly is a new app that makes it easy to...
That's about an app. We don't have to read that. No. Okay. But yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm flabbergasted.
It's nice to be passionate about something.
Yeah, I'm flabbergasted. I understand that smoking plant material isn't the best way to, have your cannabis. We have come up with dabs. There's no plant material in that. So that's a better way to smoke your cannabis. Actually, you're vaping your cannabis that way. But even then, they're gonna come up with reasons to not do that. They're gonna come up with reasons to not eat cannabis. They just want to fight it on every level. And
personally, myself, I think the stronger the cannabis is, the less I smoke. I know that's a fact. So if I'm smoking less, isn't that better? I would think.
Yeah, and we also know that when you're smoking your cannabis, you inhale and exhale. Within those couple of seconds, you have all of the meds out of there, so you can just exhale out the extra that the plant matter smoke that you don't need. So you inhale, your body takes everything that it needs from it, and then you exhale. It's not like we're trying to hold on to it and or you shouldn't be anyway, trying to hold on to it and to take away oxygen from yourself. Inhale it, exhale it. You've got everything you need for sure. Okay, we are heading over to Mugglehead Magazine. Terpenes and cannabinoids more efficient as anti-inflammatories than NSAIDs. NSAIDs? Yeah, the GB Science study.
Terpenes and cannabinoids could be more efficient in treating pain than over-the-counter painkillers, according to a study co-published by GB Science Incorporated. The recent study, sponsored by the drug development firm, was published in the Joint Food and Chemical Toxicology and tested the scent-producing molecules' anti-inflammatory properties on human immune cells. It also tested for a wide range of cannabinoids, including THC and CBD. Along with researchers at Michigan State University, the company tested terpene concentrations in human primary immune cells in a co-culture system to stimulate the interactions that regulate the human immune system.
The company said in a statement that compounds found in cannabis may be used to decrease inflammation associated with serious human disorders and even be more efficient than the non-steroid anti-inflammatory, the NSAIDs, drugs such as ibuprofen and acetaminophen. The terpenes evaluated included a pinene, transderidol, D-limonene, linalool, and pythol. Ooh, I did. Okay.
I'm glad you had that paragraph.
Thank you so much. I got a couple of them right. I know that. The 3 immune cell types were chosen based on their important roles in modulating the inflammatory cascade. The study found that the most efficient cannabinoid was THC, followed by CBDV, CBD, CBC, CBN, and finally CBD. Again.
The terpene apine showed the greatest immune modulating activity from the group, followed by linalool, phytol, and transneurolidol. Limonene had no effect, which was attributed to some terpenes being highly selective or targeting a single cell type. According to Fortune Business Insights, the market for anti-inflammatory therapies is expected to reach $191.42 billion by 2027 because of the increasing number of chronic and autoimmune inflammatory disorders. The study was co-authored by GB Sciences' own president and chief science officer, Andrea Small Howard, and her collaborators at the Michigan State University, and Helen Turner from Chaminade University of Honolulu.
The second part of the study, authored by the same researchers, measured the effects of proprietary mixtures of cannabinoids and terpenes on inflammation with the same immune cell model. We believe that this is the first demonstration of the anti-inflammatory potential of some very potent minor cannabinoids and terpenes derived from cannabis, said Dr. Andrea Small Howard, president, who is the president, chief science officer, and director of GB Sciences. Well, yeah, I mean, like I've known about cannabis's anti-inflammatory abilities for a long time.
Anti-pain, anti-inflammatory, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The identification of cell type specific immune modulating effects by different individual cannabinoids and terpenes was an important first step in designing our novel anti-inflammatory therapies. The result from our second study on the anti-inflammatory effects of proprietary mixtures of these ingredients will be published subsequently with our collaborators at Michigan State University and Chaminade University. Well, that's really, but it's kind of exciting for them to find out which of the terpenes are the best for fighting the inflammation, simply because, we can grow plants that have more of those terpenes.
Yeah, we can breed that into them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now we are heading to another study that you found, which it caught my eye too, because I do know that when going for surgery, you need to be honest with your anesthesiologist, because they have to alter how much anesthesia they give you to be able to make sure you're completely under. I have woken up during 2 surgeries in my lifetime because I wasn't honest with them, and they had to knock me out very quickly again. So we're heading back over to the fresh toast. This one caught my eye. I'm really glad that you picked it. Drugs that you don't want to mix with cannabis.
Okay, here is a list of medications and conditions that are currently thought to have adverse effects when mixed with cannabis. Cannabis is considered a relatively safe drug, and not according to the study we just read. As time passes, medical professionals are finding more and more uses for it as a medicine, from helping those with multiple sclerosis to an FDA-approved medical derived from cannabis to treat epilepsy. Cannabis is finding its footing and rooting itself firmly in the medical community. Just like with nearly every substance we put in our bodies, there are certain medicines that don't mix well with cannabis. What is more is that while cannabis can often have desirable effects, those effects can sometimes be dire to those with certain medical conditions.
Testing and research is limited as cannabis is still illegal on a federal level in the United States. However, here's a list of medications and conditions that are currently thought to have adverse effects when mixed with cannabis. Opioids and sedatives. Opioids and sedatives come with their own risks when they are not combined with other substances. When they are combined with cannabis, however, their effect can be heightened and amplified, which can be dangerous for those who combine these substances. Not sure if I agree with that. Cannabis's biggest known impact with opiates for pain, sleep medications, muscle relaxants, and alcohol, because all affect the central nervous system, according to Salem Health, which also mentions that when cannabis is used with sedatives and hypnotics, it can have an addictive effect. It's important to be upfront and honest with your physician if you are prescribed opiates or sedatives, but also want to use cannabis for recreational or medical purposes. At the very least, your physician can recommend some drugs over others or suggest a dosage that will not put your health at risk. But cannabis is what they use. We have the Cannabis Substitution Project and many other cannabis projects that help people with have opiate addictions, and they use it because it's safe to use with the opiates to help people get over withdrawal symptoms, especially when they decide to quit.
Yeah.
To use instead of, right?
I've never had any bad experience using cannabis with other substances other than alcohol.
Yeah, I don't like mixing it with alcohol. And you do want your physicians to know, because even though I don't think it's going to be harmful. Like I said, with my anesthetic, I needed more anesthetic to be able to be knocked out for the full time, so they didn't have to like knock me out again because I woke up.
Yeah, and you will never have to tell me that again, because if I ever go for surgery, I don't want to wake up. That's one thing you don't want to do.
No. I woke up twice in two different surgeries. So it was, they knocked me out pretty flippin' quick again. I mean, I barely remember it. It was 0.1 seconds in my brain. Yeah. But yeah, you don't want, when you're laying strapped down to a table and cut open, the last thing you want is to wake up.
Yeah. Blood thinners. Cannabis and blood thinners are another potentially dangerous combination. Cannabis can cause blood thinners to work excessively well, which can have dangerous consequences. Cannabis can increase the levels of blood thinner warfarin in the body, which can lead to excessive bleeding, according to the NBC News. Cannabis combined with certain blood thinners can thin your blood out to dangerous levels. So it is imperative you know whether or not the blood thinning drugs you are taking might be affected by cannabis use. Even if the drugs may not cause severe side effects like excess bleeding, they may otherwise change the drug's effectiveness. Using cannabis while on a statin or a blood thinner can change how these drugs work in your body. Lead author Dr. Mathia Vangunathan, a cardiologist at the Bingham and Women's Hospital in Boston, told NBC News.
So yeah, I mean, they're just like, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not. I know people who both use blood thinners and cannabis, and they're not having an issue. I'm not sure if they're honest with their doctors. But yeah, I mean, like if it's a matter of you take, like a half a dose versus a dose, just let your doctors know, and they will be able to follow you and get your blood tested and find out what you need. Anxiety or depression medication, the SSRIs and benzodiazepines. Another group of drugs that can have a negative and even dangerous consequence when mixed with cannabis are medications meant to treat anxiety and depression, more specifically SSRIs, and also benzodiazepines like Xanax, Valium for the benzos, or Prozac for the SSRIs. Both can have adverse effects when mixed with cannabis. One reason it is a bad idea to mix these drugs with cannabis is that both types of drugs are mood altering. The challenge for people who have a mood disorder or depression is that every time they're using cannabis, they're taking another psychoactive drug, says Timothy Brennan, director of the Addiction Institute at Mount Sinai West and Mount Sinai St. Luke's Hospital, told Women's Health. And that can make it very challenging for a patient or physician to figure out what drug is actually having an effect on what. Brennan continued. This also means that cannabis can potentially negate the positive effects these mood and anxiety medications are having. Crazy.
Tamoxifen. While medical cannabis is often prescribed to cancer patients undergoing treatment, one medication in particular should never be taken with cannabis. Tamoxifen, which is one drug used to combat breast cancer, may have its benefits negated when combined with cannabis. If cannabis interferes with the processing of tamoxifen, it can cause a breast cancer patient to receive little or no benefit from the drug. Philip Lazarus, a professor of pharmaceutical sciences at Washington State University, told WebMD. This should be a sobering reminder to always consult your physician about your cannabis use when you are on any type of life-saving or critical medication. Continued challenges with a lack of research. While the medications we listed above could be dangerous or pose risk when mixed with cannabis, there are still needs to be more research conducted. Unfortunately, even though we've reported more people now smoke cannabis than cigarettes in this country, there have been limited trials on how pharmaceuticals interact with cannabis.
Yeah, so even while many people use cannabis, tight federal restrictions limit researchers' ability to study cannabis as approved medications are typically studied, including evaluating whether it can be safely taken with medications, according to the U.S. News. This is one strong argument as to why there needs to be a reclassification of cannabis. Taking cannabis off the Schedule I drug list would allow for significantly more research on the substance and would improve how we understand the ways it interacts with the substances in our body. Well, at least they're saying at the end that, like, we just don't have enough. We need more research. They're admitting that at the end, and that kind of makes me happy because I'm not sure I agree with everything they're saying. I'm positive I don't agree with the benzos, the SSRIs, and the opiates. I mean, if it wasn't for cannabis, those would have killed me, not the cannabis.
I don't know anything about the breast cancer drug they were talking about.
Yeah. So that one I have no opinion. I've never seen anything to do with it. But again, like cannabis kills cancer. And I know people who have had breast cancer that have killed their cancer with cannabis. So I don't know if they were taking this other drug or not.
Well, it remains to be seen, I guess.
It does. It does. Last story of the day, we're heading over to the Daily Press. The psychedelic magic mushroom drug may ease some depression, study says.
Okay. And my screen's blank. Give me 1 second here.
No worries. I will start it off. The psychedelic chemical in magic mushrooms may ease depression in some hard-to-treat patients, a preliminary study found. The effects were modest and waned over time, but they occurred with a single experimental dose in people who previously had gotten little relief from standard antidepressants.
And the study is part of a resurgence of research into the potential medical uses of hallucinogenic drugs. The results echo findings from smaller studies of the mushroom psilocybin. The researchers said larger and longer studies are needed to determine the effectiveness and safety of using psilocybin for depression. Their results were published Wednesday in the New England Journal of Medicine. The findings are both intriguing and sobering, said Bertha Madras, a psychology professor and researcher at Harvard Medical School. Commenting on a journal editorial, Madras said the first study to date evaluating psilocybin for treating depression. She was not involved in the research.
Researchers tested the chemical in 233 adults in the US, Europe, and Canada. Each swallowed capsules containing 1 of 3 doses of psilocybin during a 6 to 8 hour session. 2 mental health specialists guided them through hallucinatory experiences. Results for the highest and medium strength dose were compared with those in the very low dose control group. There was no comparison when an inactive dummy drug or with conventional antidepressants, and there were other limitations. Depression symptoms declined in all 3 groups, with the greatest initial improvement being in the highest dose group. At 3 weeks, 37% of the high dose recipients had substantial improvement. Yay! But those effects weren't as good as seen in studies of standard antidepressant drugs. Oh, bold leap. And the results warned in the following weeks.
All 3 months, 20% of the high, or at 3 months, 20% of the high dose group still saw substantial improvement. Compass Pathways, a London-based firm developing psilocybin for commercial use, paid for and helped conduct the study. It recently announced it is launching a larger, more rigorous study. Side effects, including headaches and nausea, were common in all 3 study groups. Serious side effects were uncommon, but they included suicidal thoughts and self-injury, mostly in participants with a history of suicidal thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. David Hellestein, a co-author of and Columbia University research psychiatrist, said that those side effects are not surprising given the intensity of the psychedelic experience from the drug. But he said they, underscore the importance of using psilocybin in a medical setting. This is not a home run, but it is very encouraging, Hellestein said. Nothing that improvement was seen after just one dose. However, he said, it's likely that additional doses would be needed to achieve long-lasting results that could make use costly. Oh my, give me a break. Even
Really?
The need for several hours of medically supervised treatment. Well, I've got to make a comment. Like they said that it wasn't as good as what they're calling traditional, which I call modern. Traditional antidepressants would be the mushrooms. But they're talking about taking one dose of mushrooms and 37% of people saw improvement. Although and that's off one dose. They take one pill.
And that was the high dose group for months.
Yeah. Yeah, and one therapy hour compared to what they're calling traditional, which is taking however many pills. Like for me, when I was on, we'll say Effexor, I was taking 15 pills a day just of the Effexor. Plus, I was going to see a psychiatrist every week, and the cost of that was insane. Not to mention the cost to my body, right? So, give me a break.
Yeah, I don't know. It always sounds like they give you 1 foot forward and then they take 2 steps back,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We are getting close to that time, which makes me sad because I could go on and on and on about this particular, almost any of the stories that we pick, simply because, we are good at talking and seeing. I forgot to play Mushie Moment for that. That is completely my bad. I think it's because I'm so stuck on trying to get it within that hour, proving that we are live here at the Pace Radio network. So yeah, I am so sorry about missing that.
Well, I love that song. I love the little beat to it.
Yeah, me too. But I missed that. I apologize. And that's our Reefer Reporters for today. November 3rd. I was almost going to say October. From the Legacy420.com news desk. And in closing, we'd like to say thank you for watching. Thank you to our sponsors, BMA Hydroponics, Legacy420.com, and the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop in Campbellford, Ontario. And Glenn and I will see you all next week. Thanks so much, Glenn.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.